Okay, good morning, good afternoon actually, everybody. Today in this video, I just want to talk about what I believe to be the two most important factors to toning up and dropping inches. And let me tell you a little secret. Exercise isn't even in the top 5. And I'm going to explain why I believe that to be the case. And this is my opinion based on my experience. And I'm going to break it down the best way I can with some stories and examples to kind of show you and inspire you, I guess, to understand that there's a couple more important, well, at least these two are the most important that I believe anyway, and there's a few things above exercise, well, a couple of things above exercise, which I'll not talk about today, but let me explain why I believe these two most important factors are the most important, and also why I think that exercise isn't even in the top 5. So let's just briefly explain a little bit of why I don't think exercise is in the top 5. Let me tell you a story, right? So I used to work in a call centre way back when I was younger, in my early 20s. And one of my managers there, he cycled, I can't remember the exact amount of miles it was, but it was a lot. He cycled all the way down to work at the Silver Link and all the way back home. I can't remember the exact miles, but it was a lot, okay? He cycled there, got to work, showered, blah, 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 doing his work, and he cycled back home as well. Now, he'd done this every single shift. I'm not even joking. Every single shift. And I worked there for a year and a half, and he never, ever changed. He never lost any weight. He never toned up or lost any inches. He looked exactly the same the whole time. Now, presumably, obviously, to a certain extent, he had a decent level of fitness. So why wasn't he losing weight and toning up? Well, there's a couple of things, but before I touch on why that is the case, which you can probably guess, I'll explain that in a little bit. I want to talk about the number one thing that you need above all else to achieve toning up and dropping inches. Here you go. Number one is desire. Now, the good news is everybody on planet Earth is able to build the desire to drop inches and tone up, and in fact do most things that you want to do in life. Obviously, you can have the desire to be an astronaut or something crazy, but some things are a little bit too far out of our reach. Toning up and dropping inches is not. A lot of people will often say or have the perception that this thing doesn't work for me, or that thing doesn't work for me, or I can't do it because of X, or I can't do it because of Y, or do you know what I mean? Like preconceptions that there's a talent or a built-in ability that you need to tone up and drop inches. There isn't. Some people, it might take a long period of time. Sometimes, it's going to take people a lot of hard work and effort over a long period of time. Some people are more genetically blessed and they can do it in a short space of time with less effort. Yeah, that's going to happen. People are going to look different to other people. Before and afters are going to be different. Weight loss is going to be different. Inch loss is going to be different. Tone up is going to be different. There's going to be differences between the person, but every single person has the ability to tone up and drop inches, because toning up and dropping inches is an adaptation by your body to the exercise and the other thing we're going to talk about that you put into the body. Now, having the desire is the most important thing. The good news is you all have the ability to also have the desire. You've proved it in your life getting to where you are now. Think about all the achievements you've done to date. Let's just say passing your driving test, getting your degree, getting the promotion, raising your kids. Whatever achievement that you're proud of, you initially have to have the desire to achieve that thing. Let's go to the passing your driving test example. The desire is, I want to pass my test. I want to be able to get the car. Maybe it's just as simple as that. You just want that so much. You want the car so much. That's your desire right there. So now with your desire in place, you want it enough, you can go and do some tests, do some lessons, do the work that you need to do in order to get that result that you want. Okay, so most people have passed the driving test, so you've developed that desire before. You know you can build that desire. Same thing with a degree. You put sacrifices in, you put time, you have the desire to get that course qualification for what it can do in the future. You have the desire to do it. Toning up and dropping inches is so different. Like I said before, you know, people can think that things don't work for them, or this wasn't right for me, or things won't work for me for whatever reason. The number one reason why things don't work is not because it's the exercise, not because it's the nutrition, not because of work or kids or any other factor. The number one reason is that. I can make a case, an argument, a case. I can argue this till I'm blue in the face. I think I'm 100% certain that, and I'll give you some examples. If you've got the desire, you can make it happen. Like I said, it might be slow, it might not be ideal, it might not be under the best conditions, but if you've got the desire, you can make it happen. And you've proved it. Every single person who's watching this now has proved that you can build the desire and commit yourself to do something if you wanted to do it. And this is just another thing that you commit to. Another thing that you put the time in for, like a degree, like passing your test, like getting a promotion, like doing your work in general. It all comes down to the desire of wanting to do it enough that you'll make it happen. I'll give you an example. You know, when I was young and I was in my, I don't even think I was in my 20s actually. I used to work at Morrison's, and this is when I was really into like weightlifting, bodybuilding type weightlifting. That was the thing that I got into doing, was like bodybuilding type training. And I used to work at Morrison's, and I used to go, oh, there's no one working at Morrison's watching this right now, it doesn't matter, long gone. I used to steal I used to work in a warehouse where all the stock was kept. So I used to steal the men's health, the men's fitness magazines. I used to go upstairs and then the control electricity room right up the very top inside the warehouse with protein bars. And I would just sit there and learn about training, fitness and health while eating protein bars. I used to sacrifice getting a pizza at the end of the night, going to this place, going to that place, going out in general. You know, when I moved back home after being a student, I used to go to the gym in Heaton when I was a student. I lived just over the road. When I moved back to Kilmarnock, I don't drive. I would still get the bus. At the time I didn't drive anyway. I don't drive now. I used to get the bus over to Heaton. I would come home late. I would go early. I had the desire to put in the time, the effort to make this stuff happen. Okay? I could have easily said, well now because I live too far away from the gym, I can't go anywhere. You know, I could have easily been surrounded by all this stock in the warehouse. I could have easily picked on anything, any food. The whole stock of the shop was in the warehouse. I chose protein bars. I could have disguised in any other way. I could have phoned in sick. I could have sat on the toilet on my phone and flicked through garbage. But I chose to read up on this stuff because the desire was there to do the work, to put in the effort. You know, there's a quote from, not a quote, but Floyd Mayweather, he's a famous boxer. He says, he says you've got to do the stuff that other people aren't willing to do. And he used to do running late at night, like really early hours of the morning, like 12 o'clock in the morning, when he knows that the people who he's going to be fighting are in bed. So it's about putting in the work, and in order to put in the work, in order to do any of the stuff that, you know, there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then leading into exercise, this is the number one thing. Because you'll always find excuses and reasons not to do the next thing I'm going to explain, and anything. If you don't want it enough, if there's not enough desire, then there's never going to be the fulfillment. Because, like I said, you know, for some people it'll be easier than others, but for most people it takes hard work, and it takes time, and it takes consistency. And you kind of fulfill those components, which, by the way, are the things that I've just mentioned that come before exercise. You kind of fill those components without, first of all, having the desire. And that's what I think is why a lot of people would jump to the conclusions that, oh, that didn't work for me. Slimming World doesn't work for me. Weight Watchers doesn't work for me. Elite doesn't work for me. They will work. You'll find a way to make those things work for you if this is in place. Doesn't mean it has to be followed to a T. You know, yeah, there'll be certain aspects of diets that you don't particularly like or whatever, but you can tweak things. You can make the outcome, which is weight loss, dropping inches, toning up, you can make it work if you have the desire, okay? Don't be too quick to blame the program, the diet, or the thing. This is the number one thing. And again, this comes from my experience, 4 years helping hundreds of women. The ones who get the best results are the ones who ooze desire. They put in the work outside the sessions. They create their own level of thinking. They take on board the advice, but they implement it in a way where they're not just following along and hoping and praying that things will happen. They're not just, I think there's a big difference. And again, this comes from my own experience of doing it myself. Like I said, in Morrison's warehouse, reading magazines, I'm putting in the time outside of the gym. And that's what you have to really do. And that stems from your desire. It doesn't mean you have to give up your whole life. It doesn't mean that, it's got to be your number one priority and no longer your kids matter or your work matters. But it's got to be up there. It's got to be up there. And you've got to have the same level of desire that's maintaining a good level of work, that's maintaining a good level of parenthood, that's maintaining whatever it is that you do and whatever it is you've done to achieve things. That same level of desire of shown and improved your life, your whole life to achieve the things you've already achieved is the same level of desire you put into here. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, he famously said, he's one of the prime example of how you implement desire into different things. He put his heart and soul into becoming the best bodybuilder. Then he became one of the most famous Hollywood actors, and then he became the governor of California. And in one of his interviews, he basically said one of these things that's always stuck with us. And when I heard it, I realised how right it is and how much it was relevant to me and then also to what I experienced. And he says that it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same stuff, no matter what you're doing. When he said he was a bodybuilder, it's the same thing. It's time, consistency, effort, sacrifice, hard work every single day. Guess what? When he was becoming one of the world's famous action heroes, he's not an actor, he's a bodybuilder. He lifts weights. So what did he have to do? Yeah, of course, he's got that aura, which certainly helps, but it doesn't mean you just walk in and become a Hollywood star for no reason. You've still got to do the work. Time, effort, consistency, sacrifice. Someone could be on Schwarzenegger's double ganger, right? But if they don't put in that time, consistency, hard work, and effort like he did, they wouldn't have got that role. Same with the governor, same with everything else. So the number one thing is your desire. Now, if you do have this here, if this is lingering around, you want to do the things that you should be doing. It doesn't mean you have to be the perfect human, by the way. I just mean that it's there. You want it. You want it enough. But obviously, there's things that hold you back. Maybe time is an issue. But again, I can argue till blue in the face with anyone that if you want it enough, you'll create the time. Doesn't mean you have to rearrange your priorities. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to leave your kids in the playground, don't pick them up from school so you can go to the gym. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean it like that. It just means if you want it enough, you can find the time to put it in, if it means enough. And so that just stems from your desire. You've got to have enough in you. There's got to be enough motivation. There's got to be a reason why you want to get up and do this stuff every single day. Because the second part is going to be so challenging without it, which is the nutrition. I'm not following any nutrition plan if I don't care about it. Let's be totally honest. I'm not going to be eating chicken, rice, veg, let's just say on the extreme side of things. If you think of bodybuilders or anyone who's in really good shape, athletes, or even just general members of the public who are in good shape, who have visible six-pack, I don't think people appreciate how much hard work, dedication, and most importantly, desire those people have to get in that shape. It's not easy. Like I said before, for some people it's easier, but to get a six-pack and sustain it is hard work. For someone like me who finds it harder to get leaner, harder to strip body fat, it is a lot harder. Someone who finds it easier to strip body fat will find it easier. But either way, it's still hard work. It takes a lot of desire because you can't live a normal life. You can't go out on the weekends and have beers all the time. You can't have your odd takeaway treat during the week. You've got to be a lot more strict with your whole lifestyle. And a lot of people have that thing where I think those might see people in good shape, six-packs, magazines or whatever, and aspire to want it, but it's not going to happen without this. So, because if you try to embark on a nutritional and exercise protocol without the desire to really want to get in that particular shape, like a six-pack or people you see in magazines, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen without the desire. So anyway, without the desire, the nutrition is not going to happen. So you want to, first of all, really think about whether or not, what is the goal? What do you really want to achieve? Don't set anything too unrealistic, like six-packs or getting into like size 6s or 8s if you're 20 plus. You know, like it could happen eventually down the line, but set small realistic goals and go down one goal at a time. So the nutrition is the second part. And by the way, if you've got this desire here, we can help you with this part. We can help you with this part, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So if you have the desire, the next most important thing is to get on board with a good, sustainable nutritional program protocol. I don't like to use the word diet, and I don't think it's wise to diet. Diet, and by definition, can't remember the exact quote now, but words that get used are restrictions over a period of time. This stuff is your lifelong mission. You don't achieve a weight loss goal or any inch loss goal, any goal really, and it's done. If you think of your job, you're always kind of, it's constantly having to be sustained. Most things are constantly having to be sustained. It's never achieved and done. Think of like people who earn lots and lots of money. You know, like people like me and you would think with £1 million, that's it, we'll never need to make any more money again. But you will, you do, you need to, you want to. Most things aren't just achieved and that's it, done. There's always a next level. There's always things to sustain and manage. And your weight is a prime example of that. Dropping inches is a prime example of that. It's one thing to get into that particular shape, but then keeping it is just as hard, if not harder. And that's why I don't like diets, because they can be heavily restrictive for a period of time, which may or may not get a good result. But then, because of the lack of nutritional education, you know, it's just like, oh, well, I'll just slash calories and, you know, whatever. Yeah, you might get a result, great, fantastic. But then what happens when this particular thing finishes? What do you do next? Do you continue living in that way? Most people can't sustain because it's too hard and challenging. Some people can because they enjoy it, and that's fine. But for most people, the whole rebounding and trying different diets things comes from just not being able to sustain that one particular thing, because they're not designed to be able to sustain it. It's too challenging, it's too restrictive. That's not how you live life. You don't live life eating 1,500 calories and cutting out pizzas and beers for 8 weeks. That's not life. That might work in that short period of time, but there's a better way, there's a more sustainable way. And I believe, and this is what we teach inside of our programs, is just understanding some basic principles. Things you can follow for the rest of your life, things you can come back to as like a North Star, things that just operate general weight management. And it's just things like a protein source for each meal, focusing on low GI carbohydrates, understanding what they are, knowing what different protein sources are, drinking plenty of water, portion control. I think these are more important than following a diet or even counting calories, because even counting calories in itself is kind of a form of dieting where people don't see it as a long-term thing. You know, it can be used, but as a long-term thing, and it can, but I think people see it as a short-term fix, and also most people don't want to count calories for their whole entire life. It's not an enjoyable thing to do for most people, but for the people who are really, really committed and hardcore trainers who get into really good shape and sustain it, you know, they're into it enough to be able to use calories as a long-term protocol. But for most of the general public, just being able to understand some basic principles is the best way to do it. Following and eating healthy foods that are also tasty, so you're not being too restrictive with your choices, and eating bland foods that you don't enjoy. So if you do have the desire to drop inches and tone up, but the nutrition side is something you need help with, you know, anyone can train. You know, I've given that example of a friend, not a friend, but the manager at my old work. You know, it was just proof that the exercise isn't the be all and end all. it isn't the thing. He never changed, and that's because more than likely he just ate the same the whole time. He just ate whatever he wanted, and the training wasn't enough. And also because the body gets used to that. When you're doing that every single day for the long period of time that he was, eventually, you know, it's the same route, it's the same challenge. The body knows it. There's no reason for the body to lose any more weight or get any fitter or progress in any way, because there's no continued progression, no reason for the body to make any adaptation, because it's already adapted to that bike ride. If he started taking a different route where he was going up a massive hill, you know, it's a new challenge for the body to say, oh, hang on a second, this is new. I'm going to have to get fitter and stronger to be able to keep up doing this. And that's kind of how it works in terms of your body's adaptation. Same with training, with doing weights. You want to progressively lift more, do more reps, and in return, your body will adapt to cope with that every time you train by getting you stronger and more toned and dropping inches. So this only becomes important if these two are in place, because you're not going to be able to sustain exercise, because like I say, it's lifelong. You're always going to have to exercise, you're always going to have to eat well. It's not just going to begin and end of the 8-week program or anything else. So you're going to have the desire to be able to put this in place. Now, most people do training really, really well, and that's not their problem. Training is quite fun, it's enjoyable, anyone can get out and train. The hard part is getting this on point, but it doesn't have to be as hard as what a lot of people think. It can be more enjoyable, it can be more relaxed, and that's what we teach on our program. So if you want to know more about that, just shoot us a message. There might be a link above this video, or a button, or a link around this video somewhere, depending on where you're watching it and when. But like I say, if the desire is in place, this is the next most important thing. So if you're training really hard right now and you're not seeing much progress, it's likely because the nutrition is a bit all over the place or not in place at all, and we can help you fix it and get on point. Now, before I go, if there's any comments, I can check it out. I don't think there is. I hope that even streamed. So I'll end the video there. Have a good day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.